Hello, welcome to this week's chat with Matteo from ShoutOutUK. We're going to start off talking about Waves event. We started off with the pillar fight, and I tell you, that's a lot more tiring than it looks. Whacking them pillars around soon tires you out. We had a few complaints that it was tiring people out for the protest later on. But, it was good. It was a good laugh, but to be honest, not that many people come to the Wave event. We seem to be suffering a lot from clip happy at the moment, where everyone says they're going to everything, but they're actually not. I mean, we had something like 360 something down. I normally go by about a third. You get about a third of what people click on Facebook, but it seems with a lot of events now, people just click that they're going there. They've got no intention of going. It gets a bit annoying.
That's what they call, what's it called? Sofa or couch activism.
Clicktivism. Yeah. I mean, you can click maybe and still support an event, and then the people organising it kind of have a idea of how many people are coming, and then they can cater for that many. But, you know, we decided to go down to the squat down Pall Mall. So we had to keep walking a line from Trafalgar Square back down, because every time new people arrived, they wanted to know where the squat was. So we had to kind of keep walking them down. But we just thought we'd go down there, support them. It was all right, wasn't it, Ek?
No, it was all right. Like, there was a couple of people there, but like Tammy Samid and persons that she was. A couple of people there. There was a guy there from March 1st there as well. I got to meet a few new people. I got to meet Dan Cole as well. I was happy about that. And the squat was pretty decent as well. Like, it was a nice big building.
You're really quiet, Ek.
Yeah, really, really quiet.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
And I've turned your sound up. Try again.
Can you hear me? What about now? Hello?
Yeah, he's still quiet though.
It's just
still very quiet.
It's this microphone. I've got to put it right on my chin. It's on my chin. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just talk nice and loud. Shout to us.
Nice and loud.
He was glittering everywhere.
I was fucking glittering everywhere. I had glitter fucking everywhere. Because this one next to me here, the flipping glitter theory, just glittered the crap out there. Like, I was glittered. I've still got glitter everywhere. There's glitter all around my room, you know, everywhere. It's beautiful.
Really quiet.
When the actual black block. Yeah, he is.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to go on my phone. I'll be back in.
All right then. So we went down to the squat and we had a bit of a look round, see what was going on there. You know, it's quite a big building, and they've put all signs of all events and things like that in the window. The police are down there now outside. I don't know what they're planning on doing, whether they're going to evict them or not tonight. But from that, we went up to the anti-fascist march, and that was quite a good turnout. About 300 people marched. Pegida had about 80 maximum is the figure quoted.
Oh, wow. That's a good number.
They were also in... Yeah. Especially when they were in Oxford the same day. So that meant that, you know, people were quite split across the country, because I think it kicked off a bit in Oxford.
I mean, if
a police officer got injured.
Who got injured? Sorry.
Say that again.
You were saying someone got injured.
A police officer.
All right. But
yeah, police officer. Yeah.
I'm just really surprised. You know, that they're getting so much. You know, such a huge number. But then again, are they really? Because I mean, when they marched in Manchester, the amount of people that marched against them was insanely high. You know, people.
But that's the thing that they've been outnumbered.
I'm getting a call from somebody.
Who's calling you?
You are apparently.
I'm not.
No, it's
I'm right here.
That's bizarre. But carry on.
I think that's the thing though. That every march they've done, they've had more against them than for them.
Yeah, no,
so it hasn't gone too well in this country, really.
Well, which is a credit.
We do need it, because there is, especially when you've got when you look at people talking about revolution and, you know, overthrowing things, and then you look at places like the Ukraine where the far right have took over. That is really a situation that you don't want, where you've got far right trying to control things at all. You don't want to allow them to get that powerful, really, because they're worse than they're extremes in the way that they think people should be governed and what people should be allowed to do, and what, you know, it's less freedom, not more freedom. Their ideals.
Well, that's the essential, I think, problem, is that what they believe is, you know, fascism in the truest version of the word. You know, that is their belief. That's their creed, and that is something that, I mean, any sort of sane-minded person would be against, frankly.
But the police, like at the demo, they had no time for the people marching against them. They were quite, you know, full on with them.
Yeah, I mean, how was the police presence for the wave thing?
There was a lot of police about. They were like coming up. That's why one of the reasons we moved down to the squat, because they kept coming over and like harassing people, and got like videos and things now going around. You know, they're trying to collect as much evidence as they can on protesters. So, because the crowd wasn't huge, we decided to move away from them and then come back when we got our numbers up. And we just like did various trips up to Trafalgar and met people as they come. Took them down to the squat. The squat was all right though, you know. They just got into a kitchen, I think. Kitchen and dishwasher they just got when they got upstairs. But when we got actually marching against Pegida, the police were heavy straight off the bat. Me and Kiki did manage to get round the other side, and for the longest time we were left, because we were just like dancing and waving our flags. But then the next line of officers come in and they just like took us out, me and Kiki. Poor Kiki got flung.
Oh my god.
She's like, I've never been. And that was the first time she's been, you know, flung like that by a police officer at protest. But I find that nowadays that there isn't even that, let's ask them to do something and see whether they react, you know, they go along with it or not. They just straight off are in for the pushing and the attack, really. There was no give them an order, see if they comply and then step in. They just went in pretty heavy on Saturday. Wouldn't you say it? I just remember I was going mad at this. I was running me gob and somebody grabbing me backpack, pulling me back. I think that was Kieran. Yeah. Like, you don't want to get arrested. You're right, Ek.
Huh?
I can see Ek, but he's not talking. Yeah, so that was quite a good day. I think it does good just to outnumber them. Then there was the pub bits and. Say that again.
No, I was just going to say that I think it just reminds you know, them that what they're doing is not okay, and it gives the press also. stops the press from just publishing, racists go rampant in London, racism is growing in London, when in reality it's UKIP, yes, they're growing in power, but UKIP are growing in power not because there are more racists in London, but it's because the ignorant groupings of individuals that have always existed in Britain now have a platform to voice their grievances. These people have always existed. They've just always had their mindset of mindless violence, beating random Asian people at a pub or whatever. But now, because of Farage, a charismatic leader, they now have somewhere to channel their anger to. So that's why they're now more visible than they were before. But they've always existed. These people have always existed. And the media is creating this whole paranoia about, rise of the right. It's all rubbish. These people have all they've done is organize around a charismatic leader. And, say whatever you want about Nigel Farage. I think he's a very charismatic leader. He wouldn't have the power he has if he wasn't. And I think that's the only difference. It just shows the power of organization. If you organize well, there is a lot you can do, and that's all it is. Nigel Farage has managed to organize these groups of racists into a force to be reckoned with. For me, that's all it is. And Pegda in Germany are the same thing.
I think, like Nigel Farage, he's like the man that you talk politics with down at the pub. He relates a lot to that sort of person. And they're the people that are most squeezed by society a lot of the time, the working man. And they are all looking for someone to blame for the situation, why their paycheck doesn't go far enough, why they're working so hard and things like that. And it's easy to point the finger at an outsider than it is to actually look at your own.
Of course.
If you know what I mean, like the government and how they run things and that. It's easier to blame other people coming draining the resources than to look at and actually question how we're being governed. You're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it took me a minute. I had to restart my phone. Technology.
You sound better now.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I've gone on my phone. I've gone on my phone and I've got my earpiece in like that other mic. It was a 150 eBay thing. That's your fault, that is, P. Sending me dodgy links.
Don't you blame me?
It was you that recommended the mic.
Dodgy links.
Buy cheap, buy twice.
Huh?
I could send you some dodgy links if you want. I said I'll send you some dodgy links if you want.
No, I don't want no more dodgy links.
Like UKIP's porn site if you want. Oh, Jonathan Rockhard. Johnny Rockhard.
I mean, to be fair, there's two minds here. One, that we're kind of doing what the Sun does, laughing at this man for his chosen profession, and I use that word really loosely.
Fair placement.
Exactly.
Come on, man, you have to admit, porn star names are funny. They're funny. Like, porn star names are funny. You can't help but laugh at them. Johnny Rockhard, who calls himself that?
Well, obviously, a future MP.
It's a bit like... So the BBC, when they restarted the Hadron Collider, when they put the announcement up on the BBC, they put the Hard-On Collider.
Seriously?
I saw that.
Yeah. They must have known that there was a UKIPper. No, but on a serious note, I do, morals, how we live our life is important, but how important is it in politics if they're not actually breaking the law? If everything they're doing is within the law, but maybe extramarital affairs or being porn stars, how much is that really affecting their job? they're just deviants, really, aren't they?
Well, you're right. It's not actually affecting their job, but it depends on what perspective you look at it. If you look at the paradigm we're in at the moment, it's like, no, it shouldn't really affect them. But we want to be moving on to a higher consciousness. So you've got to look at these things and not scrutinise them, but we've got to look at how these things come to be. It's like, obviously, with the porn industry, it involves heavily upon making women just seem like objects. That's what the porn industry is about. It's just making women look like objects.
Yeah.
It's very rare that males have like the main starring role. Obviously the main starring role, because without the male, between the male female porn thing, like, it won't work. Obviously you just have like lesbian porn and whatnot, but the way that it is, it makes women look like objects. So it's just how you look at it, really. Are you of a higher consciousness, or do you want your consciousness to be stuck in this paradigm?
But when it comes to voting for a politician, how much do you think should be about their actual actions in office, and how much should be about their actions behind the bedroom door? Because that's mainly what you'll read about, isn't it?
Yeah, the media will. The media will just bring up that kind of stuff to deflect off the politician, to just make the politician seem bad. But obviously it's a UKIP person, and we don't want UKIP in. And I don't like to say this, but any bad dirt they've got on the UKIPians, bring it forward, man.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it is, you know, this kind of. I mean,
but it can.
One rule for one, you know, the rule's going to be for everybody. And on the one side, you know, I would understand seeing the UKIP get trashed in the media, but then if they get trashed, if there is somebody else on the Greens or whatever else, they'll also get trashed. So I don't, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing that I. Go on.
No, go on.
I thought you finished. I was just going to say that's the thing that I have an issue with, is that we can sometimes, well, the press can sometimes use it against people that are actually trying to do good to get them out of office. Because let's face it, we've all got skeletons in the closet. None of us are perfect. We've all done something we probably, you know, not best proud of. So, though this is UKIP now, what when it's somebody who's actually good and doing good, but it's been say it was someone like George Galloway, when it was being used to discredit him, would it be? I mean, you can't have one rule for the other, one for someone else, but do you get what I mean?
That's the problem. I mean, that's the problem with, for example, you know, when it was when Theresa May was talking about anti-terrorism legislation, and she was talking about all this stuff with regards to, you know, we need to curb our freedom of speech, we need to be able to tap journalists' phones to stop terrorism. Now, that's still well and good if it was specifically to stop terrorism. But who defines what terrorism is? You know, squatting could be considered an act of terrorism. Right. Walking down the street and being a different shade of skin color could be considered terrorism. You know, it's such a broad term that one rule for one person becomes a rule for everybody else in that society. So what I think people got to realize is that whatever rule you put into society doesn't just stick to one thing. It ends up becoming the norm for everybody. So if you, for example, curb a radical cleric from speaking in public, that means you curb everybody from speaking in public. Because where is that line drawn? You know, you shouldn't. That's why I don't believe in curbing people like that, or curbing religious preachers from speaking in public. I think that's an element of education, in the sense that education needs to step up and say, you know, this is complete rubbish, and stop them from getting radicalized by these people to see it's not true. But that is not something for the state to say, you know, you can't speak in public because you have different beliefs. Because in the end, who decides what is too radical or what isn't too radical? That goes down to the police.
And to a certain extent, when you say these things publicly, you face the consequences of saying such things publicly. You know, people often say, well, they take it to the extreme. I was on Facebook the other week and somebody I said something about that, you know, censoring people wasn't right. And somebody said, well, what if somebody said, I wanted to sleep with children, you know, because they always have to take it to the extreme. And really, well, the person who says that would face a consequence of saying that without us censoring him or her being able to say that. And is it not better to actually know these people's opinions than not know these people's opinions? Is it actually better to know that there's, you know, what a radical preacher is preaching, or to keep it all locked behind closed doors?
That's my point.
Right. Yeah, Matteo is right as well in the saying of it's all down to education. And as I like to call it, unconditioning, the unconditioning of society. It's a gradual thing. It'll take a while, but yeah, we can't stamp out free speech on any level, even if it's hate or peace. We just got to educate the children, educate the next generation, and hopefully in the next 20, 30 years, there can be a different conscious, like, people see it differently. So when people do stand up and speak like that, then there will be public outrage, and then that person, in a sense, will feel shamed.
That's the
for
point.
Saying certain things.
That's the point. I mean, look at racism. It's a perfect example, right? Where it was perfectly okay at one point in time to refer to black people, for example, as second-class human beings. Well, they were a lot more rude and crass than that, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely normal. Nowadays, if you said any of that stuff, you'd be not laughed at, but people would insult you. They would attack you verbally. You just wouldn't be okay for you to go around on the internet and in public saying those things anymore. One time it was, but it wasn't down to the state saying that you can't say that, you can't say this. It wasn't down to censorship. It was down to education. You know, saying that actually no, black people are the same as white people. It's just different skin tones. That's it. That eventually became ingrained in society, and society regulated itself by way of judging people. You know, that does actually help, in a sense that if you say something racist, people will judge you because it's not okay to say these racist. But it's not down to the state. I think that at the moment we're going down to a point where everything we want to become aggressively respondent to. So say something happens, the state needs to respond with an iron fist, needs to be aggressive, needs to say, no, you can't do that. It's all about, you know, the idea of the state having to force something down your throat. It shouldn't be like that. Stuff like that should be down to education. You should be educated thinking, you know, organized religion or this kind of thing, that is clearly not quite correct. Or the fact that a preacher tells you to go and bomb someone, that is clearly wrong, because it just doesn't make any sense. I think it's all down to education. And what at the moment we're seeing is how much our education is failing people, because it's not teaching us about democracy, it's not teaching us about politics, it's not teaching us about religion. It's teaching us about religion and why we should believe it, but it's not teaching us to be critical of religion. It's not teaching us about sex ed. It's not teaching us about any of these things. And yet, these are the things we need to help us build a perception of what's going on around our society. And then there's all this rubbish about Theresa May talking about, oh, we should block this, we should block that. That's all rubbish. He's not going to do anything, because that Muslim preacher is still going to preach. He's just going to be behind closed doors, and then you're not going to see any of it. I prefer him to go down the corner of my street preaching and have people that are educated around him, because then they can say, well, actually, no, you're wrong. And then eventually, once he sees that he's not going anywhere, people aren't just going to waste their lives doing that. But I think we're just going about it entirely the wrong way, because coercion doesn't do anything. It makes people more angry.
It's almost like a modern day witch hunt. You know, in the old days, you used to point the finger and say witch. Now you point the finger and say terrorist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that when you live in a community that is targeted a lot, it must be quite easy to become radicalised when you've got maybe relatives in countries that things are happening to as well. You know, and what we need to do is appear like we're helping in some way positive rather than negative with wars and things like that all the time. Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Well, it all comes down to media, doesn't it? It all comes down to the media, really, and what comes out of the TV. But I think the most important thing to get people to see it in a different way is to turn off the TVs. Like, that's where it starts, is for people to at least get on the internet for a start, because at least information is free flowing there and perspectives are free flowing, not what's coming out of TV. That's the most important one. That's where it starts. As long as that TV's on, people ain't gonna know nothing. I get angry. I watched the TV a couple of months ago. I turned on BBC News, and from the word go, I was angry with everything that was coming out of the TV. I could not believe it, because I'd just not watched TV for so long. As soon as I put it on, I saw through everything. It was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is what people's minds are being filled with.
I mean, that is the fundamental problem. I mean, TV is something that slowly, I think, is going to die out, a bit like the print press. Everything is going to go online. I think that version of conditioning is going to die out eventually, and that is probably why a lot of people are, excuse me, but shit scared. Because once TV and newspapers die out, what happens next? Because all their information is going to come from the internet, and that is free and open. Now, I think there's three things that could happen. One is the more positive one, where once that happens, people become very, very less conditioned. They start to see the world for what it is. Secondly, the worrying thing that could happen is if, for example, the Daily Mail, the Sun, once they stop spending their millions publishing newspapers and they start spending their millions on internet advertising, will they just dominate the news scene again? So every time you type a word into the internet that's oriented around news, only their site comes up, because of the amount of advertising space they buy up. Or the third thing, will net neutrality disappear once that happens?
Yeah.
Because in the end, the internet is still owned by ICANN, it's still owned by America. So, I mean, although it is free, I think sometimes we also kid ourselves into thinking that this thing is somehow has transcended the powers that be in the world we live in, when in reality it hasn't, because the internet is still owned by ICANN, it's still owned by America. It's still
everything's tracked as well, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So everything's trapped. Tor is sort of half getting there, although there are suspicions that it's been hacked, it's been blocked, blah blah blah. So it's not by any means the ideal solution, but at least it's something, I'd say. But what that means is that in the end, the fight is still there. The fight is in schools. The physical education of kids is where I think the most important part lies. Because educating adults is impossible, because you can't touch them, because they can do what they want. And the internet can be manipulated, so where do you go from there?
Well, home education. Yeah. Home education, like, that's the best option, really, at the moment. I wish Key was here, because obviously she'd be able to, like, lace it all off on the home education business. Well, yeah, at least home education, then you get to be in control of the curriculum, what you give your kids.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that we've got very good home education around here, because we've got like a county-wide home educators network, and they do classes and they do after-school activities, they do trips, and they do plays at Christmas and things, because you know, when you're homeschooling, that's the sort of thing that you tend to miss out on. And I think that a lot of parents realise that there was an issue with socialising when you homeschool, so they've got together and they've tried to counterbalance it by doing their own sort of activities. But it's not easy to homeschool your children, because in the old days we would be quite focused on community, so that the whole people around you would help you with your kids. You wouldn't be looking after your kids full on all the time. You know, you see it in tribes where, like, the other people in the tribes are all aunties and uncles, and they tend to share, you know, to the point where they breastfeed each other's babies. We've lost a lot of community living, which would help things like homeschooling along a lot. I think we're because we're so isolated now that we could do with getting a lot more community focused to get that back again, so that we actually group raise our kids again.
That all comes down to fundamentally is the way that the establishment has tried to disconnect us away from each other. It's like one prime example I like to use of this is when they banned smoking in pubs. Obviously, that's a good thing. It's always a good thing drawing people away from pubs and smoking because it's just bad for the health, and I do believe in stuff like that. But it disconnected communities. Less people went to the pubs, and that's where people congregate. That's where people talk. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best place, because you do find in pubs you get a lot of far right type of people. But I just use that as an example of how they.
I think that they blame the dying out of pubs on not smoking, but I think that the pubs began dying out before the smoking ban, and that's because it's so much cheaper to buy a carry-out pack and drink at home with your mates and play the Xbox and have a laugh than it is to go out on a night out where, you know, especially town pubs where they charge like £3-4 a bottle.
Yeah. I mean, the pubs were dying out because they're just old-fashioned. You've got bars that are open till 5 a.m. You've got clubs that are open till 7 a.m.
Mm.
Pubs now are just old-fashioned.
I like a good pub. I will admit I much prefer a pub than a club. Like, I'd much prefer to go into the pub, dodgy karaoke's. Like, that's a night for me.
Yeah, but you see, people think differently, and that's the point, I think, is that because people think differently, I think a lot of, especially young people, don't go to the pub anymore. It's mainly the clubs or bars.
Mm.
Or for the slightly richer person, it's the wine. For the old-fashioned pub, unless they are big landmarks, and I mean really, really nice old-fashioned pubs who are doing exceedingly well, a lot of them are dying out. But that's also because a lot of them are absolute rubbish. A lot of people fell into disrepute, they did nothing, they had the same old clientele, did nothing to improve their clientele, and then they suffered for it.
Mm.
It's just, but that is the standard ways of business. You know, some progress.
With the smoking ban, you can still smoke in Parliament, can't you? The MPs were excluded.
No. Well, you could technically, yes, because no law applies in Parliament, or something along those lines, sort of.
I believe that you can still smoke in Parliament.
Would I like to drink in Parliament? I think that should be banned for a start, drinking in Parliament. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
I think that we should be paying for it either. I mean, come on, they've got it cushy, haven't they? How many jobs do you get? Your rent paid, your decorating paid, your food paid, your bog roll paid, and then you get to drink at work and all.
Your mortgage, £500,000 champagne budget.
Getting your stable heated by the taxpayer.
Yeah. A crew paid by the taxpayer as well. I have never eaten so well since I worked in Parliament. Seriously, it was McDonald's prices with Michelin star food. It was insane. And that's all subsidised by the taxpayer.
Well,
and you know it's not GMO.
Huh?
We should do a fake advertisement offering really cheap meals and send everyone to Parliament.
Feed the homeless. We should pay for everybody, all the homeless to have a meal in Parliament.
Yeah.
It's the same with councils and things, though, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if I think it was Bristol. I think Bristol Council, right? 700,000 on company credit cards, and they included things like UGG boots, a tattoo, and a night out, and all kinds of things. You know, people go to prison for not paying their council tax. They have bailiffs at their house terrorising their kids, and they're they're spending the company credit cards on up boots and toes.
Mm. Yeah, I heard about that. When I got a job, I wish I could get expenses. That would have been nice.
It just really
When I've had
ask what the hell people are doing, you know. What are they doing with all that money?
well, I also thought to myself, well, I'm vegetarian and I really don't like up boots because they're very cruelly made. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, actually, if these MPs and these councillors want to spend money and have expenses, they should always have to go for the ethical option because they're spending the taxpayers' money and they have to respect that their taxpayers have lots of different views.
I would agree with that. I wonder how other people would feel about that.
When you think about how people argue about that, how could the people be against that? What arguments could they possibly have against ethical expenses spending?
Well, they don't, but it's like, for example, how they've recently just released the option to increase MPs' pay to 76,000 a year, I think it is, something along those lines. And the leaders, of course, not being able to say yes, they've just abstained from commenting. Which means we agree with it, but it would destroy our career if we said yes now. So wait until we get elected in May, and then we'll push it through slightly.
Yeah, I know. This season, like flipping election season. Do you know what really annoys me? Do you know what really grinds my gears? Do you know whenever you see David Cameron, or George Osborne, he's going to these places, these workplaces. You know what really gets me? When he dresses up in the uniform. That is a kick in the face right there. He is working for the corporations. He is wearing their uniform. He's wearing their uniform. It irritates me. Why is he wearing it? He don't even work there. He couldn't even turn on a light bulb.
No, but UK.
Oh, God knows. Does that get you, Alec?
It gets me. It really irritates me. Do you know what? He's just sitting there like David Cameron in a baker's with a Sainsbury's top on. It's like, you would never work in Sainsbury's. Why are you wearing a Sainsbury's uniform? You're a politician meant to be working for the people, not the corporations.
It's to make them look more human.
Or it makes them look like they're working for the corporations.
It's a bit of sponsorship, you know, like the footballers.
Huh?
Yeah,
it's sponsorship, like the footballers.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously what I mean. But it's like, for example, when David Cameron visited the set recently of Game of Thrones. Did you see that?
No.
He visited the set of Game of Thrones.
Why?
Heck, looks like.
Because he then made a speech quoting one of the people from Game of Thrones, apparently saying that we need to join all 5 kingdoms or something like that, need to join together against racism or against... Basically, he was trying to rally the masses using Game of Thrones to relate to people.
Oh, God, it irritates. Why? Why is he doing this? Why does he go around acting like a normal person? He don't even sound like a normal person. He sounds clearly from the countryside. He sounds like he rides a horse.
He probably does as well.
How do you feel about David Cameron and his wife talking about his disabled son a lot lately, using that in the election campaign?
That's a touchy subject right there, because the obvious one is like, yeah, he had a disabled son. He lost his disabled son. But that's another one that grinds my gears. Yeah, using his disabled son on pre-election. Like, it's disgusting. Like with George Brown, didn't he have a disabled son or something that died? He didn't use his son. I think it was his son anyway. Yeah, he didn't use him as a political game changer. It was the media that brought that up. Like, it's just trying to be really in touch with the people, isn't he? He's trying his hardest with his flipping advisors behind the scenes. I want to know who these advisors are. I want to see what kind of sick individuals these people are when they're saying to him, David, you're going to use your son. Like, what? This guy must have no heart. He must have no heart if he's going to sit there and go, yes, we're going to use my son as a political game changer. Fuck off, you prick. Sorry for the bad language.
That is exactly
I see
exactly what happens.
I see another mother of a disabled child who said that what's his Mrs. name? Sarah? Is it Sarah? Sarah Cameron? Samantha, that's it. And she was saying that she fully sympathises with her because she too, has cared for a disabled child and still is. So why are they making it so much harder for those that are caring for disabled children now with the cuts that they've implemented? And the charity that helped David Cameron's son has really suffered in the cuts. It's lost a lot of funding. And you think when it's something, if they're willing to cut something that close to home, how scrupulous can they be? I know that George Osborne today was not confirmed, or was it Ian Duncan Smith, that they wouldn't cut child benefit further.
He would not confirm. Or he would
confirm. He wouldn't comment on it. He wouldn't confirm that they wouldn't cut it, that they'd leave it alone.
Well, that's your answer then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Realistically, that's the answer.
And disabled children are really suffering at the moment. And it's it must be horrible. They obviously love their son very much for him to die. This is what annoys me about most politicians, that they go round and I'm human. I'm going to kiss a baby. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Where the rest of the year you're kicking the babies. You're taking away their money and the time that the parents have at home looking after their children, quality family time. Every year you're ripping that away more and more, but come election time you're there with the babies going, oh look, I'm a good one.
Look, I'm a human being.
Kids love me.
That one with David Cameron where he's feeding that lamb. He's feeding the lamb. What is he playing at? Like, he's feeding a lamb, and then what? It's like, oh yeah, you're a good person, and then you're going to slice its throat and then eat it for dinner. Like, people, it just don't make sense. He's a Tory. He goes out and he shoots stuff. He shoots animals for fun, and then he's sitting there and he's feeding a lamb.
He didn't get deer or something, when he went hunting, so he shot that pigeon.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's all right. It's only a pigeon. Yeah. Got lots of them.
Shot pigeon. But did you see him eating his hot dog?
Yeah. To do what? Yeah, he's joined the ranks of the bad eaters. With a fucking knife and fork. What is he playing at? Seriously, his advisors are shit. At the same time, they're good and they're shit. What is this? It's just a joke. It's a joke.
These advisors aren't good. Politics in Britain is terrible. Blair has got better advisors, and he took us into 2 illegal wars, which the truth came out, and yet he's still able to give speeches. And guess what? The press is still covering it, and people are still lapping it up. That's a good politician. Obama is a good politician. The fact that he has charisma, he has a massive amount of charisma. Nick Clegg is a good politician. He is a good politician. He is able to spin things beautifully. And he's probably still going to get enough votes to be elected next Parliament. Why? Because he's a great politician. He's a great leader. He can speak really well, immoral as a person, whatever else, but he is a good politician. Nigel Farage is a good politician and a charismatic speaker. Ed Miliband and David Cameron are as bland as anything.
That's the disgusting thing about it.
Do you not think that's the...
Yeah, go on, Pete.
I was just going to say, do you not think that that's the thing that's wrong about it? Is that you're saying that he's immoral as is shit, right, basically, but is a good politician. Shouldn't good politicians actually be good people?
I don't think they. I don't
Wouldn't
think they
that be better?
at all. I don't think they go hand in hand at all. You know, being a good politician or being a good leader means that you have charisma and people believe in you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in a better system, a good politician,
I think,
that would make the right decisions for the people.
I think yes and no. I think more so we have to. I think this is again a lack of education, because in our education system we're told to lead. We're told to follow people that are older than us, but more importantly, follow people that have charisma. Now that means that anybody that has charisma, or even a slight bit of it, has the power to make people follow them. I mean, we don't have to look back in history to see how badly that's worked out for people. I mean, look at Hitler, one of the most charismatic leaders of recent history, was one of the most evil men in recent history. You know, and that is what charisma does. The thing is, I don't think it's so much about a system. I think it's more that our educational system needs to stop making us become sheep and follow individuals that have large charisma, but more to question everything. Because a leader can only lead until he starts getting. Because if when Tony Blair he was questioned more about why the hell are we going to war there? Where are this evidence for these weapons of mass destruction? Instead of believing all the hype, listening to his great speeches that in the end meant nothing, and actually question what was actually said, we would have better leaders, because the bad leaders with bad intention wouldn't be able to get anywhere because they'd be questioned. Because if people actually said, when Hitler gave these fiery speeches in the middle of the Nuremberg rallies, if the German people, instead of being conditioned to just listen and be led by people, they actually had an education system which taught them to actually listen and then question everything. They'll be saying, well, how are Jews orchestrating this? How are they to blame for all of this? Now, how is that possible? Where's your evidence? The trouble is that we don't live in an evidence-based society. We just live in a society where, as long as you say something enough times, it becomes true.
It's the politicians and the media that does that, because it puts things in people's minds. Like when they say something and then people go, oh yeah, I'll think about that, and I kind of agree with that. It's like they always put things into people's minds. That's the problem right there. Power of suggestion.
Yeah, Hitler said that. Actually.
And that goes far, because I read an article the other day, and I can't remember what the article was about. It's a medical article, but it said that when they make, like, we pretty much accept the guidelines for how much alcohol is good for us or not in a week. But when they actually come up with that was an educated guess. And there is no fact. There's nothing backing this up that everybody believes it to be true. But it is just an educated guess that over time has been used so much that now everybody takes it as fact. And that is the case with so much in society nowadays, that everything is just regurgitated, and that's what you find yourself fighting over with most people on Facebook when you have a difference of opinion, is the fact that you've got newspapers, TV and all of that constantly holding up bullshit information because their researchers are too lazy to go out and actually find out the truth on half of things. They just go with the norm. So, a lot of science studies always seem to have opposite polls and things, so you have to kind of question where they come up with half these figures that they use for health-wise and that.
Well, whoever pays more. It's like one day tomatoes, for example, give you cancer.
Simple, isn't it?
Cure of cancer.
Yeah. What was you going to say, Ek? Is he gone? Oh, seem to have lost Ek. But it is whoever pays whatever money for whatever opinion, isn't it? But you find yourself banging your head against the wall sometimes with some people, the way that they quote these things, where there is no scientific evidence to back up anything that they're saying.
But that's the problem.
Which is why, I think that's why, conspiracy theorists actually have better arguments a lot of the time than the people that are debunking them, is because they actually take the time to research the issues for themselves and get knowledge rather than a belief.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the fundamental issue, isn't it? Is that it's not about belief, it's about knowledge. And I think the problem that is that we still have religion and RE in schools. And for me personally, I think the way RE is that it teaches people to believe in faith, it teaches to make people believe blindly in something. And up until we have religion in the world, organized religion, not people's beliefs, but organized religion, I think we're always going to have people follow stuff and believe in things like sheep. Because if you believe in organized religion and you just blindly believe in it, of course that same mentality is going to trickle down into everything else you do in life. You know, the Sun has posted this about tomatoes, it must be true. And something else is posted on a potentially scientific magazine, it must be true. Your site looks half decent, it must be true. Because in the end, there's that fundamental belief.
It's been meme.
Huh?
Someone made a meme, it must be true.
It must be true. Albert Einstein. If you heard it on the internet, it must be true. Albert Einstein.
But yeah, I think it's probably with that belief. You know, that fundamental that a lot of us are still religious, believe in an organized religion. And that then trickles down into everything else. If we started to actually say, you know what, I don't want to believe in that unless I see facts, suddenly you're going to see the whole of society, I think, change. Because then Nick Clegg can't just go out and say, well, this time it's going to be different. It's like, well, how? Every time for the past 5 elections that you've been elected, you've U-turned on absolutely everything. How is this time going to be different? Instead of, you know what, he might be right again. And then getting screwed over again.
Yeah. But this is all down to money again, though, isn't it? I mean, I do think money needs to be removed as much as possible. That the people should fund campaigns, not companies.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of crowdfunding, though, isn't it? I mean, crowdfunding, you can get quite a large amount of money from a variety of small donations.
But that's what we do really well at now. You know, if you've got something that people believe in, they will support it. You put a sad story in the newspaper of somebody that needs a helping hand, and people reach out and help them nowadays. People will give to what they support.
I mean, our documentary was entirely crowdfunded.
Yeah.
When is the documentary coming out anyway? Is there a release date for when it's going to be out publicly?
Well, the full documentary?
Yeah, the full documentary. Is there a release date for it being public?
We've got 2 dates at the moment. One is the 23rd of April, which is an industry screening.
That's my birthday. That's my birthday. You should invite me as a birthday present.
And the aim of that is to try and get it on broadcast, to try and get it on TV effectively. Get it on a broadcast.
That would be nice.
We've got representatives from Channel 4 and ITN coming already confirmed. Hopefully going to get some more. We've got people from RTUK as well. We're in touch with people from London Live as well. So we'll see, fingers crossed, touch wood. And then the proper release of the documentary is going to be after the election, hopefully late May, in Parliament, where you're all invited. Everyone's coming along, and we're going to try and get as much press for it as possible. And then after that, it depends what happens, because if it goes in the broadcast, we can't release it on the internet up until after the broadcast. If that doesn't work out, then we'll see what we do next with it. But we want to try and get as much exposure for it as humanly possible. And the best way of doing that is to first of all do as much press for it when we take it to Parliament, and then before that to try and get it on a broadcast network, ideally. Would be cool.
That would be ideal.
It does look good. P and Kiki, I mean,
I see a screenshot.
Well, huh?
I see a screenshot of Chloe Smith. Is it?
Yeah. I couldn't help but we couldn't help but point that out just before the election. I couldn't help it. But honestly, the only person that looks that doesn't look that great in it is Chloe Smith. Very much by her own doing. We didn't manipulate the interview in any way.
She wanted her interview pulled.
Huh?
You wanted it pulled, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
A little bit.
What was wrong with her interview?
Huh?
What was wrong with her
She's
interview?
a Tory MP.
She's a Tory MP. She's a Conservative MP.
There's a Tory MP. There's an infiltrator in the documentary. Jog, get her out of here.
No,
listen.
It was quite funny because when we did the documentary, right, we wanted to make it as fair as possible to get every angle. So we talked, obviously, to unmasked Anons, we talked to masked Anons, we talked to Russell Brand, we went to Occupied, and then we wanted to get someone from the government. So I was trying so hard to get somebody from the government. Eventually, we got a response from Chloe Smith. And when I sent her over the email, I told her about what ShoutOutUK is. We're a youth news network, alternative politics, etc. And then I wrote her down, what the documentary is about, anonymous movement, the questions that we're going to ask, etc. And then the PA said, yeah, we'd love to do this, So we go there, most expensive shot of the film. We get 2 cameras on her. Brilliant, it was lovely. And then the questions start. Before then, we get to sign all the paperwork, you got to sign release forms and make it all legal and so forth. Because if we are going to go into broadcast, you need to make sure it's 100% legal, everything's legit. So if she signs it, everything's happy. She sits down, and the questions start, and her face just drops. Because we start to ask her about the anonymous movement, we start to ask about the failing of democracy, capitalism, neoliberalism. We point to the Occupy protesters who have been carted off from Parliament Square as the interview's going on. And then at one point she just blurts out saying, I love democracy, and it's like, there's anonymous people protesting outside right now, and she's like, well, good for them. Just it was so funny. And anyway, so after the interview, she leaves so quickly that she drops her jacket, and she leaves her jacket in the room. She forgets it. So we sort of pack up, give the jacket to security.
I heard something about this.
Huh?
I've heard something about this jacket. I've heard something about a jacket or something.
Yeah, because Key and P said that we should have done and put it on.
That was your jacket where I put it on the.
Yeah, that was my jacket.
He left his jacket in my house.
On Facebook. But so anyway, so afterwards, right, we go home. The filming ends. We film the Occupy protest. Well, a little bit of that. Stay there a little bit. Then we go home. The next morning, I get 3 frantic phone calls from the MP's PA, as well as several emails, demanding to see the paperwork that we got her to sign. And I said, yeah, no problem. I sent it over there. Got nothing to hide. And so then radio silence till early afternoon. And in early afternoon, she sent us a really, really long email, which in essence was basically threatening us, saying that we broke off com regulations. And that if we use the interview, it's illegal, so we are not allowed to use the interview. She refuses to give us permission. So go to hell, don't use that interview. And then that was it. I didn't reply to the email, didn't even bother. She's still going to be in the interview. We got legal advice afterwards. She hasn't got a leg to stand on. But what apparently happened...
They pulled an anonymous mask out.
Huh?
You got the anon mask out, didn't you?
Yeah, we pulled the mask out.
Patrick did.
We pulled the mask out.
As to what she thought of it.
She, as soon as Patrick pulled it out of the bag and stuck it on the table in the middle of Parliament when the interview was going on.
No.
But what I think happened was that her PA, because obviously they're all trying to get the youth vote, it's coming up to election time, blah, 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 etc. So her PA only saw half of the email, or only bothered to read half of the email, which was about, we're a youth news network catering to 16 to 25-year-olds. And obviously the PA probably thought, this will be good for her to get on there, to reach out to the youth vote and so forth. So she presumed the questions are going to be strictly about youth participation. Which now she knows, read the whole damn email before you say yes to something. But she probably got bollocking. I kind of feel sorry for the PA, to be honest. Huh?
It's like, yes, we're going to appeal to all the young voters. Let's get on this anonymous documentary, the most anti-political documentary going. Let's go for it. Hey, tally ho!
Well, it wasn't that. It wasn't that anti-politics. It was It's all right.
I mean,
yeah.
But I'm
not anti-politics. I'm anti the way it is at the moment.
It's I would call it anti-establishment. But I am so as soon as we, I was debating on whether to invite her or not, because we're obviously inviting everybody in the film. So P, Kiki, all the people from the Anon interview when we did it in the squat. Obviously Russell Brand, but he won't come, of course. And all the people we've interviewed, as well as the academic person we interviewed, David Dewhurst, everybody that was in the film that was interviewed and a part of it, we're going to invite. Which leaves me with a dilemma, because I probably should invite Chloe Smith. But would that
invite her down for drinking booze?
What?
Invite her down for some drinking booze.
I can't hear you. Sorry, one more time.
She can put the drinks on it.
She can put the drinks on.
Me? Or I said she could put drinks on expenses. She could put the drinks on expenses.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll get some nice cheap meals. We'll sit down, have drinky poos with all. We'll talk about politics. We go, what's happening on the run up to the election? Go on, tell me about this documentary you're on.
That's if she's going to be there next election.
Esther McVeigh might not be.
Huh?
Esther McVeigh's not looking likely to be there. In the Wirral.
Who?
Esther McVeigh.
Esther McVeigh.
Oh, right. Yeah. But no, we'll see. I mean, we'll probably have to invite. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if we invite her or not. If we have it when we have it in Parliament, I'm pretty sure she's going to know about it anyway. Someone's going to tell her.
I'm sure she's going to get stick for days after that goes out.
When I heard that this documentary was going to be screened in Parliament, I nearly came in my pants. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so amazing. An anonymous documentary in Parliament. The symbolism of the mass. The guy who wanted to blow up Parliament, and there's a documentary going to be played in Parliament. You cannot get more epic than that. Fucking hell. What is happening to the world?
I mean, my personal quest is to get it in Parliament. I'm not going to stop. We had a Lord that was happy to do it. This guy called Lord Strasburger, which I thought perfect. Even more ironic, the fact that it's a Lord. The one thing that Anonymous probably stands up against equally is the idea of unelected officials. Screening it in one of the poshest parts of Parliament, because it'll be in the red side, where the House of Lords is. It'll be in that side of it. Only trouble is that he was caught up in the cash for access scandal, so he's now getting investigated by the police.
They're all been stopped.
I've got to look for another peer now.
Keep looking. Why do you get Dennis Skinner? He might agree. Or Glenda Jackson. Get Glenda Jackson. She's on it.
Glenda Jackson?
Yeah, Glenda Jackson, the Labour MP. She's quite.
I might drop her an email.
What about George Galloway?
Fuck it, just message David Cameron himself.
Yeah, just say, David, stop hiding.
Election's coming up. Would I master the documentary, make it seem like something else? Will I put a few pictures of some lambs on there? We'll get David Cameron on board.
The thing is that it can't be before the election. It has to be afterwards, because Parliament's closed now. The only people that can block rooms
How can you close Parliament? How can you close Parliament? I'm sure it's meant to be like 24/7, 363 days a year.
No, because we haven't. If you go to like Esther McVeigh's Twitter page, it's shut down because technically she's no longer the MP for Wirral until the election takes place. Because Parliament's dissolved now, though they're still like fulfilling their roles and campaigning, technically we don't have MPs at the moment until they're elected back in and it reopens.
We could go down Parliament and take the beats right now.
No, there are people still there,
There's
and all the rest of it, but it's not just casually shut down. But I mean, it's out of session, so therefore it's like 2 months before the election. Normally, something like that happens, so middle of March, April, and so MPs can't book us a room up until after the 7th. Lords could, but I'm gonna try and see if I can get hold of another Lord. I got a couple in mind, but I'll see. Because now that I've got the prospect of potentially having it in the Lord side of it, I think that'll be quite fun. Having it on the Lord side. But I mean, I don't care who books it as long as somebody does. We have a couple of MPs that we've worked with before in the past, like Bob Blackman, Simon Hughes, who are really quite good. But I mean, because the potential MP that hosts this may get some backlash, I don't want to put them in hot water as such. I'd rather have somebody that I wouldn't mind not sort of, dealing with again. So we'll see. But we are. I mean, I'm guaranteed I'm gonna get somebody between now and the end of May. It's just a matter of where or whom to get hold of.
I think it's going to be good.
It will be. It will be.
It's nerve-wracking though.
It's 30 minutes long, so it's a decent length for a short little program. And the thing about it is, if it did go into broadcast, they would put 15 minutes worth of ads in the middle, so it would go up to roughly about 45 minutes, which is standard show time as such. So I mean, we'll see.
Standard episode.
Huh?
A standard episode of EastEnders, half hour.
Yeah, exactly. Well, an EastEnders episode is actually 15 minutes or 20 minutes, because you gotta remember that 10 minutes is in advertising.
Do you know how funny it is? Just as you
Not
said,
on the BBC, that's
the upstairs. Just as you said it. Just as you said it, my sister's upstairs.
Spooky.
Just go up there and smash the TV, shouldn't I? I should just turn the TV off and go, get on the fucking internet, follow Wave of Action or something. Don't watch that fucking shit.
I can't understand. I hate the phone. They're horrible. I don't understand them. But,
They are horrible, and the thing is, they focus on some of the most depressing subjects in the world. There's always someone that's got cancer, and when you're going through something like cancer, you like to have a little bit of escape. And if you're somebody who watches soaps, the last thing you want to be doing is seeing other people at constant reminder all the time. But there's cancers in every single soap all the time. There's no, for people who are suffering.
Police involvement, eviction, drama, family drama, rape, casually thrown in there.
A little bit gainer just to meet the quota.
Yeah, no, exactly. So
the only thing they seem to be pretty bad. I mean, race seems to be the thing that they really struggle with.
The what?
Race still seems to be something that soaps struggle with.
Yeah.
In a diverse society, and disability, I'd say. You don't see many disabled people in soaps represented.
I think it's because it would cost a lot of money to deal with that. Not saying they shouldn't, I just think that's probably the reason why. With the racism, with the race equality thing, I just think that's because there's a little bit of racism in the producers still. EastEnders, I think, does alright, but you've got some other ones that are pretty terrible.
You seem to know a lot about these soaps.
And
Do you watch the soaps?
No, the girlfriend of my girlfriend's mother watches them.
All right, family time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, mate, I sympathise with you on that one. I sympathise, mate. I ain't even going to argue with you on that one. I was succumbed to that kind of madness at one point.
You sort of
It's easy. What when you're working, you veg out in front of the TV. It's an easy trap to fall into. It doesn't take a lot of brains to watch something like a soap, does it? You could just mong out in front of the telly.
You don't actually have to listen. It's the same sort of thing on loop. I mean, I'm quite lucky because I don't actually have a TV. I've got a screen, but it's not attached to anything. I use it to hook up to my laptop to watch stuff online.
I've just got a TV to play Xbox when I feel like it, or watch some Netflix. Yeah, I love my video games, mate. I love my video games. I really do. I love the storylines. That's what I like. Storylines in video games.
Yeah, storylines are pretty good. I've still got a PS2 though, really old one.
I think games now are shit though because they cost an absolute fortune. Like my son will buy a game for 50 odd quid, and then he'll do it in a couple of days, and I think that's shit.
This is like me when it comes to computer.
When you actually
select games, I don't spend much money on games. I've got one game that I like, Halo. I love Halo, and I don't care. The Xbox One's out, and I'm waiting for Halo 5 to be released, and I will spend the £300-400 to get that on release date. It's very sheep of me, I know, but I'm attached to the system somehow.
One way or another.
It's the Xbox. You can't help but be. I mean, it's like when we was at the climate march, and some guy started having a go at us for having mobile phones, and why have mobile phones if you care about the environment? We do need the tools that help us in this day and age. We wouldn't be at the march if we weren't on these devices, communicating with each other and learning about things. It's just because we're green doesn't mean we don't want the tools of the trade.
Necessary evil, isn't it?
We don't want to be in the dark ages.
Evil.
But that's the point. I mean, a lot of people...
I'd like one that made it.
I know. I was just going to say that I reckon there's a lot of ignorance about that, in the sense that people that want a greener world don't want us to return to pickaxes and living in mud huts. That's not what we're talking about. What effectively you're talking about is a world where we have this technology, but the energy that this technology requires is harnessed in a greener way. You can still have a laptop, you can still do this Google Hangout. It's where the energy comes from, that's the problem.
I think that everyone should eat a full bag of raisins a day and then hook up a tube to the bottoms, and that's how we harness methane. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. We could get it off the cows.
Cows?
What do you think?
That's unethical. That's unethical. That's mean.
No, you can get it off their food, can't you? You just have them. No. Did you hear about? I think it was Gatwick. Was it Gatwick that they think they've found £700 billion worth of oil?
Yeah. 700 billion barrels of oil. Yeah.
On the Gatwick Airport.
That's it. Yeah.
On the Gatwick Airport.
That area, yeah.
Yep, that area.
I'm just finding.
Happy.
It's like a big. It's a big area. Potential oil discovery. I'm just checking it's Gatwick. So I was get Gatwick and Heathrow mixed up because I'm an idiot. I'm sure it's Gatwick though.
They wouldn't like that.
And isn't it about time we left that sort of stuff in the ground?
Yeah, definitely, because that's
and was
that's not the worrying thing. Have you heard that that Shell are dragging an oil rig through the water, through the ocean that is heading for the Arctic? They're going to be drilling soon.
Yeah.
6 these people occupying it. It's not these.
Yeah, are they still on that?
I'm not sure. So. I love Greenpeace, man. They've got
it says here.
They're so good. They're so funny.
It says last year the firm drilled a well at Horse Hill near Gatwick Airport. An analyst of it suggested the local area holds 158 million barrels of oil per square mile. So they're looking to, and it is Gatwick, so they'll be looking to drill that. And some people have said today that they think that Balcombe was a bit of a distraction because no one even knew that they were testing that.
Mm.
It's terrible.
And where will that lead? Will that be the playoff? Will they say, all right, then we won't frack, but we've got a drill for oil near Gatwick?
Maybe. I mean, fracking's a bit of a dead thing now. Because if you look at the a lot of fracking companies, they're all in bankruptcy now. Or a lot of them are anyway.
It's all about pushing. It's all about pushing them out for good. That's what it's about at the moment. Pushing them out for good.
But I mean, they are pretty much.
I mean, if you look at America. I was going to say America with their water, they've got droughts all over the place, and the amount of water that's being used on fracking, I can't believe it's still going ahead over there.
Well, because America, that's fracking for them is an ideological thing, because America want to become energy independent. You know, they want to abandon the Middle East effectively and stop the reliance on Middle East oil. So for them, it's an ideological thing, and that's what's blinding them. We, on the other hand, we're just following suit because America, you know, for some reason, it just suits them to do that. I don't know.
I mean, it strikes me as insane because it does waste a lot of water, and we have predictions that we're not going to have enough water in 20 years' time. And you're thinking, but already you're all thinking about ruining what we do have. It's like, at what point? There's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter how much against it the people are. At the end of the day, they just go ahead and do what the fuck they want, regardless. I know that there's more people on this planet that are against fracking than there are for it. So why the hell it's still going ahead is beyond me. Labour don't seem to give a clear answer on whether they'd ban fracking or not.
Yeah, the fracking will be out the window very soon. I know it will. I know it will because I'm going to be spending a lot of time on it. And I've got my own little idea of a lock on, but I've got to go in. I'm not going to say nothing. I'll leave it to when it actually happens. But yeah. When I touch down on a frack site for a long-term one, they better expect me.
Mm. Oh, I've got.
I mean, my worry is how.
See you guys again soon.
Okay.
Bye. See you later, mate.
See you later. Bye.
See you later. Good chatting, mate.
See you later.
Bye.
My worry with fracking is that will be too spread. When Balcombe was like up in Manchester, it was quite easy to get people up there because there wasn't so many fracking sites across the country. And now you've got so many risks across the country, people are going to be pretty spread out.
Well, at the moment, there isn't actually any frack sites or test wells at the moment. It's all died down at the moment. All the protectors are spread out all over the place, waiting for the next one to pop up. Now, there's a pad in Radcliffe-on-Trent, which is just about 4 miles away from me. But they've not actually moved in there yet. They've got security there, they've got a pad there, and they've got a drainage ditch, and that's been there for a couple of months now, because I did a live stream in February when we went down. And there's not actually no wells at the moment. We are just waiting. We're just waiting. Like, I've got my stuff ready, Chelsea's got her stuff ready, and we're just waiting for the next site. So there's none at the moment, but apparently, from what I've been hearing, it could potentially be behind on the side. Say again?
I think there's a lot of places. There's a lot of places earmarked for it, though. That the locals are fighting it. You've got Billinghurst. There's 2 sets in Billinghurst, south and west, I think. I'm not sure. But there's lots of down Cornwall. And it's going to be hard if they. I mean, I don't think get the go-ahead. It will depend on whether they really do just stick 2 fingers up at the voter or not. Because nobody wants this. Not in their backyard.
To be fair, though,
and it's not just about in their backyard.
When you do think about it, with the opposition that there's been with the camps, investors don't want to invest. They just don't want to invest because every time a camp props up, it drops share prices. Just the camp alone drops share prices. Not even to mention the direct action during the camps, it drops the prices. So by the looks of it, it's going to go 2 ways. They're going to completely scrap it, or when it does finally get pushed through, they're going to use all the data and the material that they've learned from the anti-fracking protesters, because that's all this is. That's all that's going off here. It's not only about test fracking, it's about training up the forces. And they're using the anti-fracking scene to train up forces for various other things, not just fracking. And then the second option will be, once they're fully trained up and all their gold commanders, or their 2 pips as they call them, are all gone off and trained up the police forces, that's when it's going to be rolled through. Now, it all comes after the next election. What's going to happen after the next election? What kind of rule changes will there be? That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah. And who's in power, I think.
The removal of human rights and stuff, and all the stuff that we know what's coming after the next election. If a conservative government gets in, we know that a lot of freedoms and rights are going to be taken away after the next election if they get in. So I think it will be the next one if fracking goes ahead on that. It'll be after the next election. We'll find out what's going on. But if we've got a conservative government, then we know that they just won't roll over and say no. They will try and push it as hard as possible.
Well, you see, all these fracking companies, they've set up like smaller companies, haven't they? So they protect their major money.
Yeah.
Because they don't, if there's any claims for compensation, they've got to make sure that they don't pay it out of their, already accumulated funds.
The companies can go bankrupt, can't they?
Yeah. Which, that shouldn't be allowed. A company shouldn't be allowed to do that. If you've got the money to pay compensation, it shouldn't matter which company it comes from. Tough tips. You should have been a bit
it's
more.
All that legislation. The new law thing that got put through where they can dump radioactive waste down boreholes, down the frack holes. Like, because we are sitting on nuclear waste. I'm not sure where it is or what it's contained in, but we are sitting on nuclear waste that we can't get rid of. And that new legislation got brought through to dump it down the wells. Like, that might play a big part in what this is all about, because it's all been proven that for fracking to make profit, it just can't be done in England, because in America, obviously, it's huge. England's only a little tiny island. We'd need like tens of thousands of wells, and that's just not possible in England. And it makes you wonder. It actually makes you wonder what this agenda is all about, because if it's not going to bring down bill prices, if it's not going to work in England because it's already been proven that it don't work, or the jobs won't be created, and the profit won't be there. It's like you look at this new legislation that's gone through. It's got to be something down to this. There's got to be more to it. There's got to be more to it. Of why they want to push it through so much, there has to be more to it.
They just don't give a shit, do they? I mean, the thing, like where I live is quite a high radon area, and there's lots of England that is high radon areas, and I wonder if they frack nearby housing, if they're actually going to go in afterwards and check to see whether the radon levels have gone up where people are living.
Well, who investigates this
stuff?
That
you've got. I don't. You can get a radon test on your house.
Can you? I don't know. I'm not sure actually.
It costs a lot of money. I don't think it should be down to us to have to pay it. If I think it's about £600 to get somebody to come out and test the levels in your house. But there are areas in this country that are already, but there's houses like where I live. They're already red areas. So they're already borderline in you can't build houses there.
So yeah, it's what's going to happen. But it's
if
like
they were worse.
Contamination at Barton Moss and the refused to let inspectors into the site. Like, there's been high levels of contamination around the bottom of site, and they just won't let inspectors in. They won't let them in.
Well, it's quite guarded secret, isn't it? What's in the fracking water? They don't know. I've seen horrific skin injuries on people in America.
Mm.
You know, people that drive these vans and things like that. And that's the other thing. There isn't going to be any jobs because the jobs are specialist.
Some of the frac sites. Some of the people at frac sites have already said about how they felt ill and everything, had nausea and certain things like that at frac sites when they've been test fracking.
Well, you know, they had to pay a fair few millions out to a family in America for damage it to their house. So, you know, there has been an admittance of guilt.
Mm. Yeah, 3 million, I think it was.
I mean,
they paid off.
But you've got gagging orders as well, haven't you? Because you've got those kids that can't talk about fracking.
Mm. I know.
I mean, the whole family can't talk about it. But how do you stop your children talking about fracking when they're at school and that?
I know. Well, when you think about it, the indoctrination system,
it's an impossibility
to get children into it. It's easy to put the fear into children. They're already conditioned to look at authority and be scared of them. So, I don't know.
There's been a lot of conditioning to be fearful of authority in this country. In Coventry, they started just searching all the kids at school. Police went in. They were like 9 and 10-year-olds. To me, that's like, it's teaching them to give in to authority and do what they want, no questions asked. Because you can't, you have to have reasons to stop and search someone. You can't just stop and search kids at a school gate because, you know, it's bollocks.
It's the under 18 thing. It's like kids are just like they're just like the little computer programs. That's all the art of the establishment. It's just little computer programs that you can program them yourself. And everyone seems to just bend over and just go, yeah, the state knows best. Let the state do what they want to do.
But they don't seem. They don't seem to do very well at it because the young people are often more conscious than the older people. You know, like. There are a lot of young people that do see a lot wrong in the world, more than our generation.
You're right about that. And that's they talk about like when people say it's like kids are like that fire, and the establishment puts out their fire at an early age. So when they start getting into like the teenage years and adolescence years, that's when the proper conditioning sets in. All that years of conditioning, that's when it sets in into the teenagers.
I guess I think a lot of parents don't stand for it nowadays neither. Like parents are like, no, sod it. Whereas when I went to school, parents used to go to the parents and teachers evening and they'd listen to everything the parents said. They would never take the kid's word for it, you know, over the teacher, and you get a clout around the ear for not doing very good. But now it seems that parents actually question a lot more what they're expecting of their children. Sometimes not always in a good way. Sometimes it is a good thing to a point where you've got some people that are just being brought and tell them off. That's not so. You know, you do have to think about living together as a community and doing what's best, you know, for each other. I think you have to have consideration, but as a whole, that parents don't just accept what the teachers say as black and white, and the extra laws like being late for school, not being able to go on holidays in the term time anymore, all of that is kind of created a them and us with parents, where parents are rebelling a lot more against schools and what schools are teaching. Because I know loads of parents that teach their kids, but you know, you can question, you can question the teacher. You just got to do it in a polite way. If you don't think the teacher's right, I mean, teachers don't like it at all if you question them. But more parents are teaching their kids to question, and that's a good thing. You know, people shouldn't just follow orders; they should question more. Why are you asking me to do that?
Exactly.
As long as
So yeah, people shouldn't just bend over and like just listen to everything they're told and go, oh yeah, I'll do that. Army mentality, that's what it is. It's army mentality right there. When people don't question it.
well, that's why we get in the mess, isn't it? Because people don't, that's why police force is the way it is, because not enough policemen question why they're doing what they're doing. Not enough of the police force question who they're defending, whether they're defending the people anymore or the corporations.
I just thought I'd let you know about my battery. It's getting really low, and I can't go in there because Chelsea's on the phone.
All right then. All right, I'll stop the broadcast now. Bye.